something different than anything we've ever seen. I mean, I got to tell you, action picture, but it's
Total Recall isn't just an action-packed sci-fi blockbuster from the 90s. It's a masterclass in cinematic deception that hides its greatest secrets in plain sight. The cast and crew of this Paul Verhoeven classic embedded layers of meaning most viewers have missed for over 3 decades. What if everything you thought you knew about Quaid's journey to Mars was deliberately designed to mislead you? What if the film's most brilliant achievement isn't its groundbreaking special effects or quotable one-liners, but a philosophical puzzle so meticulously constructed that fans are still debating it today? Let's pull back the curtain on one of science fiction's most misunderstood masterpieces and reveal what was truly happening beneath the explosive action and spectacular visuals. The revelations from cast and crew change everything about how you experience this film, transforming it from a straightforward Schwarzenegger vehicle into one of cinema's most ingenious explorations of reality itself. At its core, Total Recall presents us with an audacious philosophical proposition disguised as a summer blockbuster. While audiences cheered for Arnold's character fighting his way through Mars, they were simultaneously witnessing one of Hollywood's most sophisticated explorations of identity and reality. The film operates on multiple levels simultaneously, revealed director Paul Verhoeven in production notes that most viewers never encountered. We deliberately constructed it so that both interpretations, that it's all a dream or that it's really happening, are equally valid. This duality wasn't just a clever gimmick, but the entire conceptual foundation of the project. The production team meticulously embedded clues supporting both readings of the film, creating what Verhoeven called a perfect schizophrenic narrative. Every scene, prop, and line of dialogue was scrutinized to ensure this delicate balance remained intact. Most remarkable is how the cast themselves approached this ambiguity. Schwarzenegger, often dismissed as merely an action star, revealed in later interviews that he deliberately performed certain scenes with subtle variations depending on whether they represented reality or dream in his interpretation. These performance choices are so nuanced that even dedicated fans have failed to catalog them all, and that's just scratching the surface of what most viewers have missed. The film's greatest achievement may be how it allows you to experience entirely different movies depending on which lens you view it through. When Total Recall began development in the early 1980s, nobody could have predicted its convoluted journey to the screen. Based on Philip K. Dick's short story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, the project bounced between studios for nearly a decade before landing with Carolco Pictures. Production history reveals at least 40 different screenplay drafts were written between 1981 1989, with directors like David Cronenberg and Richard Rush attached at various points. What's fascinating is how the film transformed from Cronenberg's psychologically disturbing vision, which stuck closely to Dick's existential nightmare, into something that could accommodate a major action star while preserving its mind-bending core. Everyone thought we were making a simple action movie, producer Ronald Schwarzenegger later admitted. That was our cover story. We were actually smuggling a European art film into a big-budget Hollywood production. This deception extended to the studio itself. Carolco executives approved the massive budget believing they were getting a straightforward crowd pleaser, while Verhoeven and his team quietly constructed something far more complex. According to production designer William Sandell, they maintained 2 different design philosophies simultaneously, one for the real-world sequences and another for scenes that might be part of the Recall fantasy. The seeds of the film's brilliant ambiguity were planted in these early decisions, setting the stage for one of Hollywood's most fascinating creative gambles. Arnold Schwarzenegger's casting as Douglas Quaid represents one of cinema's most intriguing paradoxes. Known primarily as an invincible action hero, Schwarzenegger was now being asked to play a character who might be completely powerless, a man whose entire reality could be a fabrication. Everyone was expecting the typical Arnold movie, Schwarzenegger revealed in later interviews, but Paul Verhoeven kept pushing me to show vulnerability, confusion. He wanted moments where the audience could see Quaid genuinely questioning his own identity. These moments of existential doubt required Schwarzenegger to shed the invulnerable persona he'd crafted through films like Commando and Predator. Watch closely, and you'll notice subtle shifts in his performance, moments of genuine bewilderment that break through the action hero facade. Sharon Stone, who played Quaid's wife Laurie, noted the complexity behind Schwarzenegger's approach. Arnold was incredibly thoughtful about which version of Quaid he was playing in each scene. Was he the genuine Quaid? Was he Hauser? Was he a program running in a recall machine? He tracked all these possibilities meticulously. Michael Ironside, who portrayed the villainous Richter, shared similar observations. People think of Arnold as just this physical presence, but he was constantly asking questions about motivation and perspective. He understood the philosophical dimensions of this story better than anyone. Behind the muscles and one-liners lurked an actor grappling with cinema's most fundamental question: what is reality? This contradiction, the hyper-masculine action star exploring profound uncertainty, created a tension that energizes every frame of the film. In 1987, after years of development hell, Total Recall faced a critical turning point that would fundamentally transform the project when Dino De Laurentiis' DEG studio collapsed financially. The script, considered one of Hollywood's most promising unproduced screenplays, suddenly became available. Schwarzenegger, who had been interested in the project for years, made an unprecedented move. During a dinner with Carolco producer Mario Kassar, he expressed his desire to star in the film. That single conversation changed everything, recalled screenwriter Gary Goldman. Suddenly, we went from a modestly budgeted psychological thriller to a massive action spectacle with the world's biggest star. Within 72 hours of Schwarzenegger expressing interest, Carolco purchased the rights for $3 million and committed to a $50 million budget, an extraordinary sum for 1988. This pivot required fundamental script revisions. The protagonist, originally conceived as an ordinary man caught in extraordinary circumstances, with actors like Richard Dreyfuss or Patrick Swayze in mind, needed to accommodate Schwarzenegger's larger-than-life presence. Yet rather than abandoning the story's philosophical core, the creative team made a brilliant adaptation. They leaned into the contradiction, using Schwarzenegger's iconic status to heighten the film's central question. If even this paragon of strength and certainty can have his reality undermined, what hope do any of us have? Paul Verhoeven, fresh off the success of RoboCop, was brought on to direct specifically because he understood how to balance extreme action with subversive ideas. We decided to make the ambiguity even more pronounced, Verhoeven explained. If we have the ultimate action hero questioning his reality, it becomes more powerful than if it were an ordinary person. This decision, embracing rather than resolving the tension between star and material, would produce one of sci-fi's most enduring masterpieces. The physical creation of Total Recall's world presented unprecedented challenges that pushed the production team to their limits. Rather than relying on traditional science fiction minimalism, Verhoeven demanded detailed, lived-in environments for both Earth and Mars. Paul wanted thousands of details that most viewers would never consciously notice, revealed production designer William Sandell. He believed these elements would register subliminally, making both worlds feel equally real, which was essential for maintaining the dream or reality question. The Mars sets, constructed in Mexico City's Churubusco Studios, required the largest indoor film sets ever built at that time. The production hired over 500 local workers who labored for months in sweltering conditions to construct the intricate Martian colony. During filming in Mexico, temperatures inside the studio regularly exceeded 105 degrees and 40 degrees C, causing makeup to melt and equipment to malfunction. Several crew members were hospitalized for heat exhaustion. Schwarzenegger recalled the brutal conditions. We were shooting in this enormous warehouse with no air conditioning, wearing heavy costumes, surrounded by hot lights. People were passing out daily, but Paul insisted we keep going because he said the discomfort would translate to the screen. The colonists on Mars should look like they're struggling to survive. The practical effects team faced equally daunting challenges. Rob Bottin, responsible for the film's groundbreaking prosthetic work, pushed the boundaries of pre-CGI filmmaking. The transformation sequence of the woman at customs, the Quado puppet, and the famous eye-bulging decompression scenes all required innovations in materials and techniques. We were inventing solutions daily, Bottin later admitted. Half the things we created for Total Recall had never been attempted before. This physical toll, the exhaustion, the technical problems, the constant innovation under pressure, infused the production with a fevered intensity that mirrors Quaid's own disorienting journey. The line between filmmaking reality and science fiction fantasy began to blur for the cast and crew themselves. The true genius of Total Recall lies in the meticulous details deliberately embedded throughout the film. Clues that reward attentive viewers and fuel the ongoing debate about what's real and what's fantasy. These elements, confirmed by the filmmakers in subsequent interviews, transform repeat viewings into an entirely new experience. Watch the scene where Quaid first visits Recall carefully. The salesman, Bob McLean, describes the exact Mars adventure that will supposedly unfold. You get the girl, kill the bad guys, and save the entire planet. This isn't just sales patter. It's a perfect synopsis of what happens next. Coincidence or confirmation that everything that follows is the recall implant playing out? We planted that dialogue very deliberately, confirmed screenwriter Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's one of many breadcrumbs we left for attentive viewers. Even more revealing is Dr. Edgemar's hotel room visit on Mars. He presents Quaid with a glass of pills that would supposedly wake him from his psychotic break. When Quaid shoots him, a trickle of blood appears, seemingly confirming Edgemar was real, not a dream projection. Yet Verhoeven deliberately included this detail to maintain the ambiguity. The pill and the blood were designed to work both ways, Verhoeven explained. If it's reality, then of course he bleeds. If it's a dream, then the blood appears because Quaid's mind expects it to, just as a dreamer can feel pain in a dream. Perhaps the most overlooked clue comes in the film's final moments. As Quaid and Melina embrace under the terraforming sky, the screen fades to white, not the traditional black. This unusual choice was Verhoeven's subtle suggestion that this might be Quaid's brain being lobotomized at recall. His fantasy concluding with a blue sky on Mars he requested. These details aren't merely clever Easter eggs, they're fundamental to the film's philosophical design. They ensure that Total Recall functions as a cinematic Rorschach test, revealing as much about the viewer's perspective as it does about Quaid's reality. The creative vision for Total Recall sparked intense conflicts that nearly derailed the production multiple times. At the heart of these battles was the fundamental question, was this an action blockbuster or a mind-bending psychological thriller? The studio wanted a straightforward Arnold vehicle, revealed executive producer Buzz Feitshans. But Verhoeven and Schwarzenegger were fighting for something much more ambitious. There were daily arguments about how far we could push the ambiguity. These tensions came to a head over the film's violence and disturbing imagery. Verhoeven, raised in the Netherlands during Nazi occupation, brought a European sensibility to depicting brutality, believing that sanitizing violence was more dangerous than showing its graphic reality. The original cut of Total Recall was rejected by the MPAA with an X rating. It required 13 separate submissions and numerous edits before securing the commercially viable R rating. Paul was absolutely unwilling to compromise on certain sequences, said editor Frank J. Uriost. He believed the violence needed to be shocking because it represented the intrusion of reality into fantasy. Every cut we made to appease the ratings board diminished that contrast. Another major battle involved the film's ending. Several executives pushed for a definitive resolution to the dream or reality question, arguing that audiences would be frustrated by ambiguity. Verhoeven, supported by Schwarzenegger, fought vigorously against this. They wanted us to add a scene showing Quaid waking up at recall, making it clear everything was a dream. Schwarzenegger later revealed, "I threatened to walk off the film." The ambiguity was the whole point. It mirrored Philip K. Dick's central question about the nature of memory and identity. The film's massive budget, eventually ballooning to nearly $65 million, gave the studio leverage to demand changes. But Schwarzenegger's star power provided crucial counterbalance. This behind-the-scenes struggle between commercial expectations and artistic integrity shaped every aspect of the final product, creating the fascinating tension that defines the film. The most fascinating irony of Total Recall's production is how the film's central theme, the blurring of reality and fantasy, began to manifest in the actual making of the movie. Cast and crew reported experiences that eerily mirrored the film's philosophical questions. There were days when the line between the film and reality became disturbingly thin, recalled Rachel Ticotin, who played Melina. We'd be filming these scenes about false memories and implanted experiences, then go back to the hotel and genuinely struggle to remember what we'd actually shot versus what we'd just discussed shooting. The production's grueling schedule, 16-hour days in the Mexican heat, created a state of physical and mental exhaustion that several actors described as dreamlike. Schwarzenegger noted this disorientation in his autobiography. Sometimes I'd wake up in my hotel room and for a moment not know if I was Arnold or Quaid or Hauser. This blurring extended to the film's reception. Critics and audiences, much like Quaid himself, were divided on what they had actually experienced. Was this a profound exploration of reality or just an exceptionally well-crafted action film? The answer depended entirely on the viewer's perspective, exactly as Verhoeven intended. Perhaps the greatest irony came from the studio's marketing campaign, which deliberately obscured the film's philosophical depth to sell it as a straightforward action blockbuster. "We were making an art film disguised as a commercial product," said producer Arnold Schwarzenegger, while the studio was selling a commercial product by disguising its artistic elements. Even the film's famous line, "If I'm not me, then who the hell am I?" took on meta-significance for a production where everyone was playing multiple roles. The actors portraying characters who might themselves be fabrications, the filmmakers creating a commercial product with subversive intent, the studio selling a complex film as simple entertainment. In this swirl of contradictions, Total Recall achieved something remarkable. It became the very philosophical paradox it was exploring. When Total Recall premiered in June 1990, it represented a tremendous financial gamble. With a final budget exceeding $65 million, approximately $135 million in today's dollars, it needed to perform exceptionally well just to break even. The film didn't just succeed, it shattered expectations, grossing over $261 million worldwide and becoming one of the year's highest earners. What's remarkable is that it achieved this commercial triumph without compromising its intellectual core. "We proved you could make a financially successful film that still asked profound questions," Schwarzenegger noted with pride years later. The audience was ready for something that engaged both their adrenaline and their minds. Critically, the film received a fascinating split reception that perfectly mirrored its dual nature. Mainstream reviewers praised the action and effects while often overlooking the philosophical layers, while academic and science fiction critics recognized it as a landmark exploration of identity and reality. Total Recall won a Special Achievement Academy Award for its visual effects and was nominated for 2 additional Oscars. Despite this recognition, many critics initially dismissed it as merely an action vehicle, only to reassess its significance years later. The film broke technical ground as well. Its seamless integration of practical effects, early CGI, and traditional filmmaking techniques created a visual language that influenced science fiction for decades to come. The animatronic work by Rob Bottin, particularly the memorable Johnny Cab, represented the pinnacle of pre-digital character creation. What's most significant about Total Recall's success, observed film historian Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, is that it proved mainstream audiences could handle, even embrace, philosophical ambiguity. It opened doors for later films like The Matrix and Inception that similarly play with reality. This breakthrough transformed how studios approach big-budget science fiction. Total Recall demonstrated that intellectual complexity could be a commercial asset rather than a liability, that audiences would not only accept but enthusiastically engage with narratives that refuse to provide simple answers. The influence of Total Recall extends far beyond its immediate success, sending ripples through filmmaking, popular culture, and even our understanding of memory itself. In many ways, the film was decades ahead of its time. Its visual aesthetic, the lived-in futurism, the blend of corporate sterility and chaotic human elements, became a template for countless science fiction films. James Cameron, who had been involved in early development of the project, carried elements of its visual approach into his later works. The crowded, multicultural Mars colony directly influenced depictions of future societies from The Fifth Element to Blade Runner 2049. Verhoeven's approach to building a believable future by focusing on mundane details was revolutionary, noted production designer Alex McDowell. The self-driving Johnny Cab, the full-body security scanners, the video calls, these elements felt authentic because they existed alongside everyday human concerns. The film's exploration of implanted memories and identity manipulation arrived just as real-world neuroscience was beginning to reveal how malleable human memory actually is. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, whose groundbreaking research on false memories gained prominence in the early 1990s, has cited total recall as an uncannily prescient artistic exploration of her scientific findings. The film intuited what science would soon confirm, Loftus observed in a 2015 interview. Our memories are not recordings, but reconstructions, vulnerable to suggestion and manipulation. In the realm of interactive entertainment, Total Recall's influence is equally profound. Modern video games like BioShock and The Last of Us directly reference the film's questioning of player agency and identity. The entire concept of virtual reality entertainment, from the crude recall experience to today's sophisticated VR systems, follows a path the film mapped out. Perhaps most significantly, Total Recall anticipated our contemporary crisis of reality. In an era of deep fakes, alternative facts, and media bubbles, Quaid's fundamental question, "How can I know what's real?" has become our cultural dilemma. The film's prescience in identifying this philosophical problem, 3 decades before it would become a defining social issue, reveals its most enduring achievement. It wasn't just entertaining us, it was warning us. What gives Total Recall its enduring power isn't just its groundbreaking effects or quotable lines, but how it functions as both mirror and window, reflecting our deepest anxieties about identity, while opening vistas onto philosophical questions we're still exploring. The film presents us with a profound human truth. The stories we tell about ourselves, whether true memories or comforting fictions, define who we are. Quaid's journey isn't really about Mars or conspiracies. It's about the universal quest for authentic selfhood in a world full of manufactured experiences and identities. We designed the film so that the question of reality becomes less important than the question of choice, Verhoeven revealed in a 2020 retrospective. Whether it's all a recall implant or not, Quaid chooses who he wants to be. That's what matters. This emphasis on choice over truth feels increasingly relevant in our digital age, where identities are constructed and performed across multiple platforms. The anxiety Quaid feels when his reality dissolves mirrors our own discomfort with how fragile the boundaries between real and virtual have become. When we re-examine Total Recall with this understanding, seemingly small moments take on profound significance. The wistful expression on Quaid's face when he first sees Mars on a television screen. The way he hesitates before pressing the button at recall. The final line, "I just had a terrible thought. What if this is all a dream?" isn't just a clever ending, but an invitation to philosophical inquiry. The genius of the film, noted philosopher Slavoj Žižek, is that it makes the spectator perform the very cognitive work it depicts. We, like Quaid, must decide what we believe is real. 35 years later, this masterpiece continues to reward those who look beyond the explosions and one-liners to find the provocative questions buried just beneath the surface. Watch it again with fresh eyes and you might discover what was hidden in plain sight all along. Not just a great action film, but one of cinema's most sophisticated explorations of what it means to be human in a world where reality itself is increasingly up for grabs. If you found this deeper reading of Total Recall eye-opening, hit like and share which interpretation you believe, dream or reality, in the comments below.